let's get started. Welcome. I think we've the last one was last week at this time, it's 6 o'clock. So this was something new that we wanted to start, as we have had a lot of council members here on the dais for several years. We didn't get a lot of turnover, and Mr. McCann and Mayor Matt were our first really new candidates, and many are new finalists or people in several years. And so we wanted to onboard them a little more than we have in the past, because we didn't know what we did. And so then we thought, when we look at the whole cycle of submitting your filing and then actually going through the election and then being a winner of the election, we thought, well, let's do more up front so people knew what they were getting into a little bit more. So as you were getting asked out in the public, or you are being interviewed, or just want to know more about what a day in life of a council member would feel like, you'd have some information that you could use. So our slide deck is printed out there for you, and so it's pretty informal, so you can ask questions as we go, and we just kind of bounce between the four of us here. I'm Jenna, the city administrator. Good.
I'm Emily, I'm the assistant city administrator.
Don McCann, I'm the second ward city council person. I'm the newbie, so I'm the one that gets all the leftovers, so. It'll be good, because then somebody out there is gonna get the leftovers.
Somebody else can do doggy work.
Doggy work, and I'll explain what that is.
And then we have, of course, Al.
Mayor Matt, lucky enough to be in my second year known as mayor. And I love every second.
We got Bailey in the back of the room that helped a lot with our presentations and setting this up, so thank you. And we got Tim in there as a non-official. Is it Jenna? Here's our agenda for today. You can, we'll run through this, as many of these are highlighted in the presentation as we go. We have, so each one of us kind of split up these little different sections in here. Takes probably about an hour. Last time it went over an hour, but it was a bigger group, so it probably is about an hour's worth of information. So Mayor Matt, maybe you want to give it a start here?
Well, again, like Jen said, thank you all for being here tonight. You know, this is where it all starts. You know, all government, they're always away. St. Paul, John Jasinski are fabulous to work with. They do a great job. City Council, running for public office is a powerful way to shape the future of Owatonna. Your willingness to lead us when passionate, dedicated, bringing unique perspectives to the table, whether you're a lifelong resident or new to Owatonna. And we had some people last week that were new to. Your voice and your vision are vital to keeping Owatonna a vibrant, growing, safe place to live and work. Thank you for your dedication to Owatonna's future. I wish you the very best with your campaign journey. I, along with Don, am one of the newbies, and I just want to say for myself, and I think I could probably speak for you, Don, that if at any point on your journey you need an answer to a question, you're trying to decide one thing or another, don't hesitate to reach out. You know, we have our roles on city council and as mayor, but part of that is being available to answer questions, even and especially things like this. So why local government matters? This is local government. It directly impacts daily life in Owatonna. The things that are decided on the dais that the city council votes on, they're things that affect our everyday lives. It influences safety, infrastructure, utilities, parks, and it is the level of democracy closest to the residents. You can, and sometimes do probably, see your city council members or myself on a weekly, if not daily basis. Current mayor and city council. The city of Owatonna was organized as a municipality in 1854. The city operates under a home rule charter form of government consisting of 7-member city council and mayor who is not a voting member. The only time the mayor has a vote on city council is if there happens to be a tie. Tom Coons, my predecessor, I asked him one time, how many times did you get to vote? In 21 years as mayor, he said one time. So that's how, so with 2 members elected at large, represent the entire city, and 5 members elected from each of the city's 5 wards. Going back to the home rule charter, that's, in Minnesota, that is kind of a rare thing. When you see a home rule charter, it's kind of like our constitution. And I think there's like 108 cities of the 850-ish cities in Minnesota that operate that way.
Hey, Mayor, before you go on to that, we just talked about the weak mayor and the role
Oh,
of, I mean, you did a little bit of that, but why we haven't got a council president?
Right, so it's not an insult to me. We have what's called a weak mayor system, where again, I don't have a vote. I'm not running the meetings. We have a council president, council vice president. Council president is the one who runs the meetings and helps to set the agenda. You'll see Kevin Rainey, who is our current council president. He's the one sitting out there calling on people, leading the meetings, calling for votes, things like that. Doug Voss is our council vice president. He fills in when Kevin is gone.
I think it's just important as you go around to other forms of government or other city governments, you might see that the mayor actually runs those meetings, and that's because of the home rule charter is why we're different. So just so you can kind of know what that is.
And the city's charter is available on the city website, so if you haven't seen it yet, and you're interested in taking a look, that's where you can find it.
And we do have what's called a charter commission, which works under the auspices of the state government. And we have 10 members on that charter commission. They regularly meet only once a year to review changes, things like that. Current mayor and council, myself, President Rainey represents the 4th ward, Vice President Voss is an at-large member. Nate Dotson currently represents the 1st ward. Mr. McCann is in the 2nd ward. Dan Boki, who is the next new guy, is an at-large. Dave Burbank is 3rd ward, and Brent Svenby is 5th. So the city does have 5 wards with 2 voting precincts in each. Redistricting occurs after each census, so we can keep the population of Proctor pretty close to equal. Current boundaries were established following the 2020 census and took effect for the August 2022 primary election. Seats that are up for election this year: Ward 1, Ward 3, and Ward 5. So Dotson, Burbank, Svenby, and then Dan Boki is running for re-election, but his seat is up as well. Council elections are staggered so that roughly half the seats are contested every 2 years. So every 2 years, 4 members of the city council, 2 years later, 3 members plus the mayor. This ensures a balance of experienced and newly elected city council members, helping maintain consistent governance year to year. So the role of the mayor and the city council: the mayor serves as the official dignitary of the city, holds veto power, including line item veto authority on the budget, recommends measures they consider beneficial to the city. So now again, the mayor does not have to vote regularly. I'm out there talking to people every day about things that they care about, that they want to see changed, or that they don't want to see changed. And so that's the power the mayor has, is that having a voice in policy, talking with the council members, and helping to move forward, helping to set the direction. Co-presents the annual State of the City address with the city administrator, recommends individuals for appointment to boards and commissions, subject to council approval. So the boards and commissions, I will do an interview with somebody who is interested in being on one of those. I will call on a city council member, usually to sit in on the interviews, just to get a little bit of input, along with typically somebody who is like the president of that board or commission. Act as a spokesperson for the city and issue official proclamations on behalf of the city. The role of the city council is to provide governance by setting policy and offering strategic direction, control of finances and the property of the city. Council holds the authority to make, ordain, establish, publish, alter, modify, amend, and repeal ordinances. When you see ordinances, think laws. Resolutions, rules, and regulations for the government and good order of the city. May declare and impose penalties or punishment on any person, firm, or corporation that violates an ordinance, rule, or regulation, and they set fees as well. The council president and vice president, they're selected during an annual organizational meeting held at the first city council meeting in January following an election. The council president conducts and leads the official meetings of the council. As a member of the council, the president presides over the meetings and votes, serves as a key representative in intergovernmental relations, and the council vice president, as I said, Mr. Voss, serves in this role when the council president is not available. Civility code. This is something that we came up with recently. We feel that it is important that we do have discussions. We may have different points of view behind the scene. But when it comes to the vote, after we've had it, we move forward together as a team, because this is what we have decided as a group we believe is best for the city. So first, I promise to listen with the intent to understand, not to simply respond. I will be fully present, engaged, attentive, and intentional, minimizing distractions so others feel heard and valued. I promise to do my part to help us be better together. And you'll hear that often throughout this process. I will come prepared, communicate with clarity and purpose, stay focused on what matters most, and align my contributions with our shared why. I promise to remain open-minded. I will seek to understand perspectives beyond my own, lead with empathy, and consider the needs of others before my own. I promise to stand in unity when decisions are made. I will support the team, respecting and honoring the outcome. Even when it differs from my personal perspective, we move forward as one. How do city council meetings run? The agenda is set and announced and posted. Public hearings are held at the beginning of the council meetings. So if there is something before us, and a public hearing is needed, that is the first thing that will happen on the agenda. The mayor's proclamations, following that, licenses, permits, miscellaneous things, ordinances, resolutions, staff reports near the end of the meeting, public comments. At the end of each meeting, anyone who is in attendance that is from Owatonna has a chance to come up and has 3 minutes to speak on whatever it is that's on there. They might have a request, they might just have something to say. Now, it's not a time for interaction between council and whoever it is that's out there, and that's important to remember. A lot of people forget that, they don't understand it, they will come up and ask questions. And the council president does say that council will not answer questions and will not interact at that time. After the meeting is over, that's a great opportunity to engage in those kinds of discussions, but not in that setting. The council comment and general info following that, and adjournment. How does local legislation get passed? And this just lays out the steps. So again, when you see or hear ordinance, just think law, it helps. So drafting an ordinance, posting a notice of proposal about the ordinance, introduction of said ordinance at a city council. So when there's an ordinance, we will have a public hearing, and following the public hearing, there may be revisions, and council will talk about that ordinance. Following discussion and revisions that might be needed, there's vote, signatures and attestation, publication of the ordinance, record keeping, and then it becomes official city law.
Hey, Mayor, before you go on to that one, if I can just give that a real life scenario that probably some of you were in the room one, but we did an ordinance on golf carts, ATVs, but you can kind of see that was new, right? We didn't have one. And so technically it was illegal
Right.
for people to be
Yeah.
riding.
Yeah, so the state actually passed a law that said unless there's a city ordinance, driving golf carts, ATVs, UTVs in the state of Minnesota was illegal. So some people got a little bit mad at city council because they passed this ordinance, but without it, driving those ATVs, UTVs, and golf carts was illegal under state law. So we had to do something.
So we heard, that people want them, right? We were, the chief saying, people are driving them, we need to make it legal or enforce it. So it was it was a process that probably took a year and a half to work through, I'm looking at Emily, because we worked through this for a long time, kind of got put on the back burner and it came back. But worked through it with the people, and drafted the ordinance. Mark Walbrand is heavily involved in those ordinances, because they're legal and they're law. And then post a notice, have discussions on, we had studies study session over, and then we tweak it, it wasn't quite right, so it would go back to staff. Staff would work on it and then come back again to present it in a study session to see if it's right. So we really use our study sessions as those opportunities to kind of inform the council where we're at. And then if we're ready to go, then it goes to the council, for approval. And in this case, it has a few steps because becoming law takes a few steps of posting it, and doing, the public hearing on it, and then having it vote, and then it waits, I think, a few days, 10 days before it actually goes into effect and becomes law. I think it's really important to realize that's a real example that we had in the last year where we introduced a new law.
Yeah, and it's not something that's simple. So a good question that was asked last week was, so at city council meetings, just go, everybody's up there, they read it off, and then they vote on it, that's it. Well, it doesn't happen quite that quickly. There's a lot of work that goes on. There's hours, days, weeks, sometimes years of work that go into putting these things together.
And our boards and commissions are integral in that work leading up to before it even gets to the dais for approval or a vote. That's really where, community members, if they're interested in really digging in and helping out, doing the legwork on some of this stuff, those boards and commissions are where that work takes place alongside with staff before it gets up to council for approval.
This morning, there was an airport commission meeting, and the last meeting, the city council meeting, we approved 2 things for the airport. All that work was done at the airport commission a long time. The contracts come to us, and they have done all the heavy lifting before we get to it. So, again, they do a stellar job, whether it's the airport commission, the planning commission, the human rights commission, EPA. There's a lot of different commissions that will do a lot of the heavy lifting, so that we don't end up getting bogged down. So,
And most city commissions have, council members on them.
yeah, there are, airport commission does not, park and rec board does not,
Fire civil service does not.
Does not.
And the library.
so there are some that do, so airport commission does not, so as a city council member, I try and sit in the audience at some of these commission meetings just to get a feel for what's going on. Because as a council member, you've probably seen the agendas, the meeting minutes are there, but you don't get the flavor of how they got to it. So, when we get into that later on, time, the amount of time that you spend is up to you if you wanna go to these meetings. It is truly interesting, and the amount of discussion that goes on before it gets to the point of getting to us is really, really good.
And it's a great way to build up your knowledge base about some of these things. The last study session we had was with the planning commission, just talking about some changes. A lot of that stuff, I was sitting at the table with Don, and we were both across the table from Brent Svenby, who's been in city council 16 years. He knew this stuff, and he was rattling things off, and he was asking questions, and you're just kind of, great question. But it's a really, really good way to learn those inner workings. And a lot of our city council members were actually receive a monthly stipend. Mileage is reimbursed for approved city travel, and training and conference registration costs are covered. We have a couple of really, really good partners that we work with on a regular basis. The League of Minnesota Cities is a great resource for us. They provide us with really good, solid legal advice as well. Coalition Greater Minnesota Cities is a coalition of everybody, or anybody can be on outside the metro. So a lot of times we have more in common with those than some of our partners in the metro. And those conferences, they're a couple of years, and they'll move around to different parts of the state. Like there's the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities meeting in New Ulm next week that some of us will be at. Council compensation is set forth by the city charter. Council members receive compensation for their roles. Council members receive $1,200 per year. Council vice president, $13,200. Council president, $13,800. Mayor, $14,400. And
If you do the math, it works about 20 cents an hour.
Any questions on that before we move forward? Good. I'll take the next section here, and this is really, roles, and overview of the student staff. I think this is a really nice image for, us to see a graphic here, because sometimes we get into these roles as on councils and boards and commissions, we forget where we're supposed to be at, because I think a lot of us are where we work, where we're the hands-on operation piece, where the day-to-day operations during our jobs or our career. And so when you get into this role as a council member, you're really shifting into that policy focus. And so we use this air flight, as kind of an idea of kind of showing you the route is where we want council, to be at with observation, input, direction, feedback. And as you get more into the gold or the yellow, is more focus of the work of the staff. And so at that higher level of setting our purpose and values and our vision is really at that highest level of what the council does. And then working into that strategic plans. And so those might be for 5 years or 10 years or 3 years, but that long range planning. And then really setting that priority. And as you start getting into the priorities, that's where you're gonna see a little bit more staff time put in there so we can educate the right information as they're making those decisions, and then oversight. And so once those priorities are put in place and we've got funding in them, then there's the oversight of making them happen. And as we talk a lot of times, things are in the works for years. It's not everything is happening in one calendar year. So this week was doing a wastewater treatment plant grand tour on Saturday, and it was probably in the works for 10 years and really heavily in construction for 3 or 4 years. So it took some of the council that approved it weren't on council today, so it's multi-years. And then we get into the project work. So that work is anything that's approved, and what you might hear is CIP, which stands for Capital Improvement Plans or Projects. That's a lot of times what that might be. It might be replacing the roof, it might be doing some streets, and it might be doing a wastewater treatment project. And then there's the day-to-day, just the routine stuff that we do every day, answer calls, go out for service, mow lawns, hire people, service IT tickets, all that routine day-to-day work really is, council's not really in that at all. We keep them updated on what we're doing and how we're doing, and kind of how we're doing on the day-to-day operation, but they really aren't in, coming in to see us, to give us work direction by any means. Any questions on that? And then this is our organization chart. A little bit small, but at the very top is the citizens. And then right underneath there is the council and the mayor. And then we have our city attorney, Mark Waldman. He will be celebrating his 50th year as a city attorney in February, so he's been around for a little bit. Chris Booski used to always say he came with the building, and he'll even start repeating it too. And then you'll see kind of two groups of boxes here. There's probably about 9 departments that are represented up there. And they go anywhere from your fleet and facility to IT, HR, finance, communications. And that's led by Emily, and that's our internal services. And so that's really everything. Well, why don't you tell us what internal services, Emily?
I tell my team, it's our job to take care of the employees so they can take care of the community. So it's our job to make sure that we're hiring the right people, they have the right technology, we're paying bills on time. Communications falls underneath this team, so really taking care of those external facing departments.
And the other box is the ones that I directly direct, and that's our public works, community development, so our planning and zoning, HRA, the airport, you can see what's underneath them, the library and recreation services, the fire department, and the police department. Those are what we call our external ones, which are really the ones that are out there on the front end delivering the service. So Emily's group really helps make sure the front end people have the tools to do their job so they can go out and do the work. We all know police officers do really important work, as any one of these boxes do, but without the IT department, internal services are not getting very far. Right?
Kind of working squad car, right? So we also have our own mechanic shop. And within internal services, we take care of the people, but we also take care of the buildings too. So any city buildings falls underneath the facilities team.
So you're almost gonna take each one of those as their own operation, almost their own business, and start looking at, local government, you can see why it's so complex, because it is. Every one of those is almost its own business.
Can I interject one thing?
Yeah.
If you look at that organizational chart, you'll notice that the city council is right below the citizens. So the city council has one employee, and that's Jim, the city administrator. So you're gonna get calls from people wanting you to do something, or you're gonna get texts, emails, or whatever, wanting you to take care of something. You have to direct that back to Jim. Everybody in this room is a doer. You're here because you wanna get things done. That is gonna be a very difficult transition to make from, I'm gonna jump on this and take care of it. So, okay, I gotta give it to Jenna, and it will flow through to what it needs to get done. I had an individual call about some concerns on the road, and I had to get that to Jenna. Then I went through the process, I got some information back, I met with the residents, and that information flows back. But it's not like you're gonna go out and fill the potholes, it's not gonna happen. So, that's why sometimes things move a little bit slower than we would like. But as a city council, we got one employee.
So I'm responsible for the day-to-day operations of the city of New York. So the citizens elect the city council and the mayor, right? So that's our democracy right there. And you'll see that as we play through this, but that is who the citizens are saying, sit up there and make the decisions for me, and that's how the votes are taking place. Elected to do so. Part of my role as a city administrator, I've been in this role for almost a year. I've been in local government for about 25 years, 30 years, and so, part of my responsibility is to serve at the direction of the council. So I take directives from the council, and then it's my job to implement them and get the job done. I oversee the day-to-day operation, and then aligns with the council's direction. I implement the council's policies, so again, the council sets the policy, it's my job to get it to be implemented. Oversee the preparation of the budget, right? We prepare it and manage it and deliver that. A balanced budget is important to know, so we can't run like the federal government where it's not balanced. So if we got this many expenses, we gotta come up with the revenue to pay for that. And then I serve as the city clerk, and I act as the chief advisor to the council. Everybody can't be experts to everything, right? And so it's my job to get the information to the council, because some of the decisions that the council has to make are hard decisions. And I need to tell you, the council members, the good and the bad, right? The pros and the cons to every decision. And I always usually would come forward, or our staff will come forward with a staff recommendation. And the council can take that or go with a different direction as we choose. But we try to add those professional level direction, because we know not everybody would come with the amount of knowledge to make some of these decisions. So sometimes that's why we kick things back to staff, because we need to get more details, so council has more information so they can make good decisions. And then I think I hit all of those, and then really the big one too is sometimes the decision of making a decision and the pros and cons to that consequence of the short term, but the long term too. Because as we start making decisions, we can see how it starts impacting long range plans of what that does. If we decide to fund something or we decide not to fund something, we can start seeing where that starts popping up in our financial management plan, or a staffing impact, or operations. So we really like to look at long-term plans so we can see what happens with that. Any questions on this? Our purpose and value statement. Emily, do you want to tackle this time?
Sure. I would be happy to. So, most organizations, it's pretty standard that they have a mission, vision, and values, right? So here at the City of Owatonna, as an organization, we have our purpose statement and core values. And we developed these hand in hand with council and our employees about 5 years ago. And we were very intentional in just doing a purpose statement. We wanted something concise and direct and to the point that really explained our why. Why are we here? Not what are we doing, but why are we here? So our why is we create a better tomorrow. That's why we are here as an organization. And how we do that is through our values of better together, community stewardship, and pride in our work. And this purpose and values, yes, it hangs on office walls, yes, it's printed on certain materials, but it truly is embedded into the people systems of our organization. So these values are embedded into our job descriptions. It helps guide how we hire employees. It helps guide how we review our employees and hold them accountable. It is seen in how we make decisions. When we're pressed with a hard decision, we go right to these values, and that provides us that direction. We want to make sure that we're all rowing in the same direction, and we're very clear with how we do our work.
Yeah, really a big undertaking that we did 5 years ago. This was directed from the council at the current time. They really are the ones that were behind this and said this needs to get done. And we were kind of having a little clarity issue of who we are, what we were, and everybody's kind of going a little bit different directions. So this has really helped us bring it together, and our staff really appreciates it.
If anybody was at the last council meeting, you maybe heard Eric Anderson, our recreation manager. He oversees the River Springs Water Park, and he gave a staff report. The water park had a delayed opening this year because of some unforeseen pipe leaks. And in his staff report, he shared how these values came to life and how they tackled that issue. So things like employees from other departments showing up to pitch in and help out. Wastewater was over there with their cameras trying to identify where those leaks were. We had our seasonal temporary staff, our lifeguards and our guest services employees that really make that water park run. We needed to maintain and retain those employees, but we didn't have a facility for them to work in. So we had other departments step up and come up with some projects for those seasonal temporary staff members to work on. So some of them were seen out in the parks spreading wood chips. Some of them were cleaning out some city properties. They were doing some sidewalk assessments for public works. So we truly all came together and the seasonal employees kind of joked because they were competing to see how many different departments they could work for over the course of the summer. So, but I think that also shows community stewardship. Really making sure that, we're taking care of our employees, but we're also taking care of our community. Some of those projects had kind of sat on the back burner, and we got to get them done this year because of that situation, while we were troubleshooting and waiting for that facility to open on the River Springs.
What's really critical of that water park is the lifeguards, because if you lose your lifeguards because they go and find different employment somewhere else, you can't open the water park. And so if they can't see that they're gonna have a job where they got a little bit of paychecks coming in, the risk was losing our lifeguards. And that was what's, good spirit of our staff was really not to throw the towel in the easy way and say, oh, we're done, we can't find the leak, we're good till next year. But they really kept going at it. And thank goodness, because we've been hitting some pretty hard, heavy days here, that people are able, because it's a fun place to go. It's also about community health, and if people don't have a place to go cool off and get in the water, not everybody has air conditioning, and so that's a resource for our community to be able to have some fun, but also be able to have a chance to cool off and get out of these temperatures. So that's really a health concern for us. In addition to that, we have some key focus areas. These are kind of our 3 to 5 year areas that a couple of years ago, council had set these for our next 5 years, and these were really the focus points to that. And then from there, we drill down a little bit down from that area, we developed a strategic plan. And the strategic plan is really that 3 to 5 year, or 3 years out. And this one here was really focusing on our public amenities, really that economic prosperity, financial security. We really want to be a premier employer, so we attract good staff people. We want to be good neighbors. We work a lot with OPU, we work a lot with our business groups here, and our school. We have a lot of good neighbors that we try to work with the county too on different projects and some efficiencies there. And then we really get down to the kind of the nuts and bolts. And, this year, council gave us kind of this couple of year lookout that said, here's our true north. This is our focus areas that we really want staff to get behind and try to figure out. And this is where our special projects come in. It really comes down to that public safety infrastructure. They really want to get that done. Fully operational staff and ready for the community. And then we got our organization effectiveness. Again, and this is in addition to the day-to-day operation, but we wanted to implement and optimize staffing and organizational structure. So we're making sure services are aligned so we can be efficient. We want to make sure that it's sustainable and it's built for the future. And then we want to manage the community growth. We want to make sure we're matching the community growth that's balanced. So we don't want to have something kicking our coverage, as I call it. So we don't want to have a big growth spurt, but we haven't matched our city operation with it. So we don't have enough police or fire, or we don't have enough planning staff to help support that, because then that's out of whack. And so we're really trying to do that balanced plan effort. There's a saying out there, 30 by 30, 30,000 population by the year 2030. We know that's a little aggressive, but we also realize it's at least a milestone that we've been trying to get to. I'm confident that our planning team here has really been working hard. And sometimes, you know, it's like batting. I'm a sports person, and so you go up to the plate and you swing and you miss, and you swing and you miss. But every once in a while, hard work pays off and you're gonna hit one. And so I know we're gonna see some good stuff coming from the planning office here soon. Any questions on this? This is really where you're gonna start seeing budgets saying this stuff costs money, right? Or we need to reprioritize and stop doing something else to focus the resources over here. So as you guys as our current council and mayor are working on the 2027 budget, this is what's influencing. So we get the direction, staff comes together and says, here's how we can make some of these items start happening, and it's based on this direction. So it's not Jenna coming up with some crazy idea, or Emily or one of her teammates doing it. It's really saying, here's our normal day-to-day, but here's the pieces that we're trying to tackle some of the items to keep moving. I'll turn it over to you, Emily.
Okay. All right. Well, finance is a big topic. We could probably spend well over an hour together just on this. So this is high level, okay? So very similar to that airplane analogy where we're talking about the role of council and the role of staff. This is just another visual to kind of show how that works when we come to the budget. So again, our elected officials help with setting that picture of the future, setting those strategic focus areas and that high level direction. By the time we get down to the bottom of that funnel and we start talking about actual department goals and the execution and how are we going to get there, that's where that baton gets passed off to staff members, and we take it from there to carry it forward. So a couple kind of high-level finance bullet points. So on some of the earlier slides, it said, you know, our council is in charge of all of the finances, right? So that comes in the form of policies, right? So for example, we have a fund balance policy that our council has approved that states that the city maintain an unrestricted general fund balance of 45% of our operating costs. And the reason why we have that in the state of Minnesota is about 58–60% of our revenue comes from the property tax levy, and another 23% comes from intergovernmental. And that includes things like local government aid from the state. So when you look at those two sources of revenue, those only come into the city twice a year. So we need to maintain a fund balance to maintain those day-to-day operations in between receipt of that revenue. We have about a $31 million operating budget, general operating budget. In the public employment or organization sector, we use fund accounting, which is a little bit different if you're a business owner than general. I'm sure Don, our resident finance guy, can kind of speak to that. year, we did work on developing a 10-year financial management plan. And the reason we did that is we really wanted to make sure that everything gets taken into account and considered as we are presenting items to council to make some of those hard decisions. So things like capital projects, vehicle replacement, pavement, staffing, all of building maintenance fund, all of those pieces are important to consider, because if we make a decision just on staffing without considering everything else, there's gonna be an impact. You're not gonna maintain that balance. So this financial management plan is a tool that we've pulled together to help council have the information to make those decisions and to kind of process through some of those different scenarios. So we're excited to have that as a tool.
And before you go on that one, can I just say a couple of things here? You know, we're in this every day, year in our career. We go back one deal. And just, when you see the general fund, that is like a checking account, right? That's one of our checkbooks. So that's just saying the fund then is that bucket. And we have, how many funds? We have several funds, Don, 15 funds probably. So we have all these different kind of specialty buckets. The biggest one is our general fund, which is really our day-to-day. So when you start seeing those funds, that just means that's one bucket of a multiple. I don't know if you guys have it, but I have like 3 checking accounts, right? So you can kind of just start putting your checkbooks together that equal that whole asset value.
Jen's mentioning it, can you hear me in the back, by the way? There's multiple funds, so we might commingle the funds to get additional interest on it, but then you have to break them apart. So we can't take wastewater treatment money and use it however we want. It's set aside for a specific fund. So those fund balances can't be just willy-nilly and take them and do whatever you want with. So what we typically deal with is the general operating fund. So that's one thing to keep in mind, and as Emily mentioned, you know, we get our money essentially twice a year. The LGA is something that is at risk because that's coming from the state. And a few years ago, they took that away, and at that time it was about $5 million that they took away to go, what are we going to do? So again, that's what that 45% is at. And the accounting people will come in, and currently we're using Apple. I think you're looking right now for director of finance. They'll help us with that. So that fund balance is something that we really need to focus in on. Because at some point we might have 53%, you know, geez, we have a lot of money to play with, but again, there's always things that are at risk that we don't know are going to happen. So you have to take that into consideration. Because I'm an accounting guy, but I had started in the healthcare industry where they did fund balances, so I know, you know, kind of that thing. So again, from a general business perspective, it's different. It is completely.
The other thing I will mention is when you look at the city budget, we are a service-based organization. We are here to provide services to the community. We aren't here to make a profit. So in order to do that, about 70% of our general operating expenses go to personnel. So salaries, benefits, that kind of thing. Because we can't put out the fire unless we have somebody driving the vehicles, right? So the equipment and the tools, they can't just do it themselves, but we need our staff members in order to provide that level of service our community deserves.
In fact, we just put a little bit of substance behind these numbers, because we don't just put those heavy numbers up there with nothing behind them. But you look at $186 million, for heaven's sakes, that's a lot of money that's out there. But that's all of our projects that we have identified over the next 10 years that we need to get done, right? A big one in there is the police and fire station, so that's noted in there. The other ones that are in there is if we need a maintenance building, if we need an upgrade to this building with our HVAC system. So we list out all these CIP projects that we have that we know are coming due, and we use that life cycle. So we know a roof is good for so many years, or an HVAC system, so we can kind of forecast it. And as they become due on that year of budget, that's where we reevaluate and say, do we need them or do we not, or we readjust them. So it's a continuous improvement of watching that number. But that numbers are really important number to know is because we have to manage it. And so that's why having that financial management plan is really starting to be really critical to say, how are we gonna fund this? And so, the city owns over 90 buildings. So that's a lot of buildings, that's more than probably most typical cities own. And so we just have to remember that every building, and many of them are, as we're hearing, over 100 years old. And so that's part of our challenge, is why that number is pretty high up there, because when you have to replace, or you have to upgrade, or you have to have old buildings, that number's there. So that number probably, or then underneath there, we have the street pavement. We have 152 center line miles of road, is that right?
Sean knows that off the top of his head, I don't.
I'll just make it 152. What do we-
162.
miles, and we only replaced 6.7 this year.
How many? 6.7?
6.7.
And so we're trying to get like that 50-year replacement, but we're not keeping up on the replacement to keep that replacement. So you can kind of see where this starts all piling up real quick. And so it's really important that we keep up on roads and pavement. Otherwise, we are not making kind of that level of service that we're hoping to maintain or keep that life cycle going. The building maintenance fund. Trying to maintain that building maintenance fund, and that might be a smaller roof that might need to be replaced, or an HVAC system that's smaller. So these are taking care of the smaller projects that are not as big as the capital. And the vehicle replacement, I don't have the number right in front of me, but I think we have about 200 vehicles that have steering wheels on them, plus all the attachments to the trailers. And some of those vehicles go from $1.5 million or $2.3 million of a fire truck down to a pickup truck that probably costs us about $60,000 or $70,000. And then the lawnmowers that are very specialized. So we have a lot of specialty equipment, and so they're not cheap pieces of equipment. And we, like Emily said, we have our own shop, so we take care of our equipment really well. And again, we try to get the most resale out of them, along with keeping our fleet updated. And so that's a big deal. So when you start seeing $23 million in 10 years, but you put a fire truck or two in there, or a big snowplow truck, or a road grader at 5, 6, I was just down at the streets this morning, and they said, Jenna, that truck over there was $187,000 3 years ago, now it's $287,000. And that's one of our, snowplow trucks. And we got a replacement next year, and so they're thinking it's gonna be $400,000. So the cost of everything that you are feeling, the city feels the same pain. And then our staffing, we have about 160 full-time staff, approximately, and then we employ about
At least 150 seasonal temporary, and then we just hired probably about 100 election judges, so. Yeah.
So it kind of tells you how much we have come and happen. So it's a big operation behind the scenes. So when you see that we're adding 16.7, that's over 10 years. But again, trying to keep up with that level of service. So I just want to put a little bit of context behind what's behind those numbers, because that really starts impacting the budget.
And that's why we look at a 10-year budget. We want to try and make it.
And your financial management.
Financial.
1-year budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was looking, but we're trying to keep this, rather than seeing the spikes. So we're gonna go buy a fire truck, $2 million. We don't want that. We want to try and keep that as level as possible. As we all know, there's gonna be some inflation. Things are gonna cost more than you. So we're trying to stay on top of that versus going, oh my God, how are we gonna pay for this?
And we acknowledge 10 years is a long time, right? But this is a plan. This is a plan that gets evaluated every single year. There are likely things that are going to pop up in the next 10 years that we never imagined we would have to work through. So it is a plan, it's not set in stone, and we do reassess needs and priorities, right? So even though we replace X number of park maintenance trucks, before we actually make that decision, staff members are looking like, what's the condition of the vehicle? What's the trade-in value? Is now the right time? What are prices like? So they're making those decisions on an annual basis. We recognize that 10 years is a long time, but it is important to keep our chin up and make sure that we're looking into the future and not just making decisions on a year-to-year basis. All right, so just another graphic to kind of show setting the annual budget or approving the annual budget is probably one of the most important jobs, in my opinion, that city council has each year. And we have a specific budget season where we're looking at, budget proposals and making some decisions, but really, it's a year-round process. Between the strategic planning process that happens shortly after the first of the year, reviewing that financial management plan, and also, implementing those goals and those strategies, and then reporting back to council throughout the year, so they know where we're at. This is our 2027 budget process calendar, so we are in it right now, and I put this up here just so you can kind of gauge what this process typically looks like. And I do want to call out 3 different meetings here. The community is more than welcome at any public meeting, but I want to specifically welcome you or invite you to the August 5th Council Budget Review, August 17th Council Budget Review number 2, and then the November 4th Council Budget Review number 3. So that is when staff will be presenting to council what they have included in their proposed budgets and why. So good background information.
You got, I'm sorry to interrupt you. November 4th is after the election, so whoever out here is gonna be, I highly recommend you in the audience. The other thing that's probably good, that Emily, you're still,
No, that's fine.
is September 1st, setting the preliminary or proposed property tax levy. That's not something that's set in stone. We have to do that as far as the process we go through.
So really, we plan to adopt that final budget for 2027, December 15th. So by the time our new elected officials take office in January, it'll already be set to agreed to. So it might be helpful to know kind of what all went into the development of that budget. Okay, Don, I get to pass the torch to you.
You get to do the
You want me
quick.
to play? Okay.
Yeah, otherwise I talk so long that we'll run out of time. Just some of the things that I would kind of like to talk to you about is, people ask me what it's like being on the council, being one of the newest member. It's like drinking out of a fire hose. There is so much stuff coming at you, there is so much to learn. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy to do some of this stuff. The folks that are sitting out here that are running, you are replacing 3 individuals that have 50+ years of experience that are on the city council. There's 1 member that is at large that is running. So again, there's a lot of experience walking out the door. So we're gonna work together to come up with a lot of these different things. The things that we deal with, you're gonna see study sessions. Those are typically before the city council meetings. We talk about various topics. Mayor Matt mentioned the planning commission meeting. We sat down with them. They talked through a lot of different things that they've been working on for 6 months. They're supposed to pick it up in about an hour. So again, you rely on those folks very, very heavily. Conferences and training. Mayor Matt mentioned League of Minnesota Cities. I strongly encourage you to go to their training session, because you're gonna go and you're gonna be with probably 500 different people that just are newly elected, and they're going through the same thing. You can network, get a better feel for what's going on. Just to give you a little bit of background on where I was, Mayor Matt mentioned, and I'm gonna pick on him a lot, I started on the park board. So I spent 9 years on the park board, so I had a little bit of an understanding of the budget process. And I wasn't very bright, so I went and spent 7 years on the school board. So from there, I took a sabbatical and got on the city council. As I said, there's gonna be a lot of boards that are involved. When you get behind the dais and you're sitting there going, what commission or board am I gonna be on? The newbies tend to get stuck with doggy court. And everyone and I can talk about, what is doggy court? Doggy court is if there's a dog in the city that happens to bite somebody, you're gonna review it with a panel of people and make some judgments. So you'll probably be on doggy court. But there are other commissions, meetings that are gonna be economic development. There's 3 members of the council on that. I think there's a couple other boards I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but there's a lot of them that we can get involved in. As I mentioned early on, some of the boards that we have out there don't have council members on, but it's always interesting to go and watch what's going on in those meetings. So again, the amount of time and energy you want to put into this is up to you. But again, it gives you a really, really good background. Quarterly work sessions, strategic planning sessions. Jenna talked about those, Emily talked about the budget reviews, all that. It's gonna be a lot for you to take on, just to understand it. There's all the different funds that are going on. We're getting a new director of finance. We're gonna have, hopefully, a new fire chief. We're gonna have a new police chief coming on. So again, there's gonna be a lot of new people, a lot of new things going on. So again, we're all gonna deal with that together. Ethics and public trust. In this time in our country, there is a lot of scrutiny going on. And I will guarantee you, if you try, and Melissa's there, and there's gonna be a camera. And everybody's got a phone and a camera. And again, what you say is gonna be out there forever. So we wanna try and be as transparent as possible. We want the public to trust us. And as Mayor Matt had mentioned, at this level, we are trying to work with our citizens so they have a better feel for what we do. We try as much as possible to be open, honest, ethics. You're all ethical people or you wouldn't be in this room at the levels you're at. So again, that's a very, very important part of it. If you're not, it's gonna get called out. And we've seen that with a lot of our public officials. They have been called out for things that have happened in the past. Social media. We just went to a training session or a conference put on by the League of Minnesota Cities in Rochester. And this is one topic that they talked about twice during that session of how do you respond? What do you do? What can you do? What shouldn't you do? So a lot of those things you need to take into consideration. A lot of times you just need to step back a little bit, think about it, work with staff, make sure you provide the correct information. I'm not knowledgeable on everything. I might have a better feel on the finance side, but I don't know everything about human relations, about, marketing, those types of things. So again, avoid misinformation and negative comments. It doesn't do anybody any good. And I always look at Mayor Matt because he's probably the most positive person I've ever met. He talks about it doesn't do any good to be negative anyways. So you're going to be contacted by the public, telephone, text, emails. They're going to come to your door. If you are at the grocery store, they're going to stop you and they want to talk about something. Engagements that we typically have Thursday night, and we'll call it the
Downtown Thursday.
Otherwise, sometimes known as Thirsty Thursday. We have a booth, and we try and stay there and try and talk to people and give information. So again, it's to what level or degree you want to get involved. That information is very, very helpful for the public. They're going to walk by, they're going to talk to you. As we talked about, Jenna mentioned it, when we're on the dais and it's public comments, we don't respond. So this is an easier way in the other environments to talk to people. And that's what we want to do. We want to be very transparent. We want to talk to people. I would strongly encourage you, if you're going to run, is to make sure your family's on board, your partner's on board, your spouse is on board, and your dog is on board. Because you will be stopped walking down the trail and someone's going to ask you a question, and is your dog ready for that? Walking through the grocery store with my spouse, she sometimes goes, ain't gonna do it. She's gonna walk away and you end up talking. I'm gonna put Mayor Matt on the spot, so you had an episode like that?
So, I got married recently, and my wife and I are remodeling my house. And so we had to run to Walmart late one day just to pick up a few extra things. And we were walking in together, and there was a lady sitting right outside the door. And as soon as we came walking in, she looked at me and said, "Mayor, come here!" My wife just looked at me and said, "I'm going." So much like Mr. McKenna's wife. So I went over to talk to her. She starts telling me her story. She's 85 years old. She's lived in Owatonna her whole life, and launches into it. A little bit negative, but just, and it's a skill you have to work at. It's not responding, just sit there and listen. So I've discovered in my time that more often than not, somebody just has something to say, get it off their chest, and know that someone is listening to what they have to say. They're not looking for an answer, they don't want their problem solved, they just want to know that someone is listening to what they have to say. And it was that simple with this lady. So about 20 minutes later, my wife comes back out, grabs my wallet, and goes, I'm kidding, I'm gonna check out. So in that time, this lady's 86-year-old friend had come out, pushing the cart. We talked for a few more minutes. But it was really, truly just as simple as standing and listening to her. And she was a little bit uptight with me at first, but by the time we left, she was feeling good. The three of us were laughing, and I said, okay, you girls have a great night, and go straight home. And it turned into a really positive interaction. You know, and this role has helped me keep in check that Mr. McCann can attest to this, because you do get stopped at the store. You get stopped walking down the street. You get stopped with your dog on the trail, when you want to get coffee, wherever you might be. I got stopped at one of my trips to Washington, D.C. It just happened to run into somebody from when you're in this role, you're always on. There's never a time nor a place where I'm not mayor. There's never a time nor a place that Mr. McCann's not on city council. You're always representing the city of Owatonna. The city of Owatonna is not the streets, it's not the buildings, it's not the street lights, it's the people who live here. You're always, always, always representing.
As Mayor Mathis told me a number of times, you got two of these, you got two of these, and one of these. So use these two before you use this one. And people just want to be heard. My wife is a mental health specialist, and she said, you know, a lot of times she talks to people, they just want someone to listen, and then someone who really cares and has, you know, something that they feel good about. Not every time you're going to be able to solve a problem. I just enjoy this a lot because I get a call, and I throw it over to Jenna, and I go, I'm done with this. After she takes care of it, and they go up and talk, oh, hey, did it work out? And they go, yeah, it did, or it didn't. So again, it's just dealing with people and making them feel that they're heard. We're not gonna be able to solve every problem. If we had an unlimited checkbook, we could do that. Again, we have to make some tough decisions as far as what we can and cannot do. Time commitment, like I said, that's up to you how much you wanna commit your time. There is time up on the dais, there's work study sessions, there's budget meetings, there's quarterly meetings, so those things you have to work into your busy schedules. I mean, you're all working. I'm a retired guy, so, you know, I can do a lot of these fun things where I get to go do interviews for, you know, with Mayor Matt or with Emily, so again, it's not as much of a time commitment for me, but again, you've got working lives, you've got families, you've got other things that you want to do. You might be playing pickleball, you might be playing cornhole, I don't know. So again, you have to take that into consideration. Handling conflict and public pressure, I think we talked a little bit about that. You're always on, essentially. So you gotta be prepared. You might be having a bad day, someone else might be having a worse day, but again, you try and make them feel as good as possible when they're working. How do you file? Get your money out.
Is this mine?
It is.
Okay.
Do you want to take it, or is it?
No, let's just do it quick, yeah. I think some of you have experienced this already, but I need to be eligible to vote in Minnesota. I have to be at least 21 years old when assuming office, and then live in the district for at least 30 days before the general election, and then you can't file for another office in the same election cycle unless it's permitted. Next one here is just we are in the middle of it. We started on Tuesday, we go till next Tuesday. You can come up to City Hall if you haven't already. It's on the second floor of City Hall. You'll probably meet Jeanette or Logan up there, and then you'll meet Emily and I at some point. And then this is the QR code if you want some additional there.
If you're lucky enough to meet Jeanette, and you haven't yet, when you go to file, this was my experience. I handed her my paperwork, I paid my $20. She answered the next 5 questions before I even knew what those 5 questions were. She's that good.
Yes, and so if you need some additional information, you can go to our website too, or the Secretary of State is another good one too. But just so you have some understanding of some basic campaigning is really you need to just file your, or understand the filing timelines, which you know, and so if some of you have already applied, just know that there's a timeline if you want to drop out too. But otherwise, we are in the middle of it. And then there is some, you'll develop your message, however you want to campaign on, and then just the fundraising to it. So there is some requirement for reporting those at $750. And so Jeanette or Logan will explain that to you, and it'll be in your packet.
And all those details are in that packet. If you have already filed, that's the packet that we handed to you. If you haven't yet, it will be in the packet that will give
So
to
you
you.
don't have to file it. And then here's those 2 resources that are additional, really good resources for the county runs actually the elections. We do the city's part of it, but we take direction from the county.
And typically the chamber will have like a campaign opportunity. I mean, you might have, in my case, I had 3 people, including myself, running, so we were all on the dais. People were asking questions and we have panels, so there's those types of things that are available.
We had what, Chamber, Rotary had one, OVW, Open Business Women had one.
I didn't get invited to all of those. Just kidding. So yes, there are opportunities, and yeah, it's really, I think, be prepared to kind of, what's your platform, what are you thinking, you know, what do you want to take care of? I think by doing what Jen and Emily have put up here, you get a better feel for the things that you will be dealing with, what you can't deal with, and what you will be able to do. So if you're going, well, geez, I want to get that person on the street department fired, it probably isn't gonna happen. So again, it's gonna be very high level things that the community's gonna ask.
If you have any information in any of our operations of what we do, like I said, we have 9 department heads. Emily and I are your resource, right? We want to make you successful, so if you have questions, let us know. If you want to be in touch with one of our department heads, please coordinate it through me, but I'll gladly set up time for if you want to learn a little bit more about something, so you have that information, so you can be successful in your campaign and feel like you have the right information to do that. So with that, any questions that you guys have, you might have, and welcome people to the back. Thanks for joining us.
I would say this, and this was really important to me as I was getting rolling in this and I was planning how I was going to do my campaign. The want to save money is going to be strong, but keep in mind, and again, this was very important to me, that being a member of the city council, you're representing Owatonna, and you're doing your best to support Owatonna. Going online and getting things done cheaper is an option, but we also have some really good, smart businesses that are here willing to help. And yeah, honestly, it might cost you a couple extra bucks, but we're here to support and do what's best for the city of Owatonna. And I would urge you strongly to consider that as you're going along this path. Try and Mincy grants for example, legacy signs. They all do a good job. There's very smart people, and I'm not here to endorse anybody. I'm just here to endorse local business.
Any questions that you guys have? I'm gonna ask, or do it afterwards too.
Is there a dollar amount you consider capital?
It's usually over $5,000. What we probably need to do is at some point is to split small cap. $61 million, you know, so there's gonna be a time where we're gonna need to separate those out, but right now, it has to have a life cycle or a lifespan of a certain amount, and then it's been $5,000. So probably need to update that a bit more, but it is, right now, you'll see some stuff in there that are smaller, and then $180,000 $96 million, and then some things that are very substantial.
And I think traditionally, the city has used cash on a lot of bases. I think with some of the bigger ticket items like the water pipe repairs, we'll go out and do debt financing versus trying to pay for that.
How we pay for that $5,000 might be cash or
Yes.
bonding or it's levy. Yeah. Anything else? No? Anything?
Just a general question, if not city council, how does one get involved with the parks board, the planning board?
If you go to the city website, you will go to the boards and commissions, you'll be able to see when there are openings listed. And so if you go there, you'll see what's there, and what's available, like currently, I think we just put up today two positions for the Human Rights Commission and, what's that?
One park board and one charter.
One park board.
So any vacancies will be advertised on the city website, you'll likely see it on social media as well. And we have essentially an online application process for anybody interested, because we do wanna make sure it's open to everybody, we don't wanna just be handpicking people out of the community. So it's a open application process, and then the mayor heads up, that selection process, so to speak, and then makes the recommendation.
Anything for you, Melissa? Nothing, huh? Melissa, you got anything for me tonight? Nothing? Pam? Good. Timmy?
I know everything already.
And I'm sorry, I don't know your two back there, but do you have any questions that you wanted?
No.
Super. And then if you could dig out a handout or, yeah, perfect, good. Bailey, how'd we do?
Pretty well.
Eight? Nice, good.
And if at any point any of you have any questions, again, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us, and your representative, your city council representative. You know, in the end, we're here to help. We all, no matter where we fall on the political spectrum, are here to do what's best for our town. That's what we all want. We might have different ways of trying to get to that point, but we all want this.
Just a final comment, if you will. When I came on, then Emily did a fantastic job of doing an onboarding process, because as they mentioned, there wasn't really anybody that changed for 8-10 years. But they put a program together for newly elected officials, what you can expect. And we're gonna sit and some of the other things, so you're not coming in going, I'm a deer, I'm in the headlights, I don't know what I'm doing. This is a great process that they created so you understand, because we want to make sure that you're comfortable with coming in. It's a hard enough thing to put your money down and get up and do these things. So again, we want to make it as easy as possible for you. And there are resources out there to help. And we really, really thank you for making the commitment, because in the environment we're in today, not a lot of people want to step up and be involved. I come from, the last thing I did was with the Park and Rec. I tried to find coaches for various teams who was very be involved, and not just sit on the sidelines in the chair and watch.
Yes, know where to find us if you have a problem.
If you got any questions, don't ask me, I don't know anything, it's these two.
Remember, we're supposed to refer over to the agenda.
Absolutely.
That's where we'll end up at, so we'll take care of you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, much.